Hey, it's Alicia from Mobility Mastery, and this is my long overdue update on my knee injury. So there's kind of a lot to say, and I'm gonna try not to go on about this for too long, but I did want to come on here and update you guys because I know I was kind of giving you some information on seeing the chiropractor and where I was at before, and a lot has changed in the last month or so since I did the last update. Uh, and I think I want to try to share with you where I'm at and then go backwards a bit. So I'm doing really well overall. I'm walking almost every day. I have almost no pain. The swelling's pretty much gone. There's a little bit on the back of my knee still, and but other than that, nothing. And I hiked 6 miles on my birthday on August 21st, and then I hiked 8 miles on Stefan's birthday on August 26th, and that was a really good feeling. Doing the 6 miles on my birthday felt like a milestone. I had made it my goal to hike on my birthday a particular trail that I really love. It's a section of the Colorado Trail that's pretty close to our house. And I wanted my goal to be like at least 3 miles. And the fact that I did 6, and I actually could have done more, but once we reached the 3 mile mark and decided to turn around, the thing with hiking and injuries is you're never really sure how you're going to feel when you're done. Because you might, I don't know, for whatever reason, my body might feel more beat up going back. So we decided to turn around, and I felt really good afterwards. I probably could have done a little bit more. And then I did 8 miles pretty soon after that. So I did push myself a little bit, and I definitely felt like I could have done more on that hike as well. But it's been an interesting month. It's not all just unicorns and rainbows and healing and freedom and awesomeness. I went into kind of a dip of what felt like a real plateau of like a couple weeks where I didn't feel like I was improving at all, and was noticing some things about my leg that made me pretty sure other things were injured than just my MCL. So I want to maybe just describe those to you, and I still, at this time, even though I'm doing really well, believe that these injuries are there. And I'm healing from a lot more than just an MCL tear or full rupture, I believe. So I started to notice that a certain way of bending my leg if I was standing. So for example, to get out of the shower, you have to bend your leg and step over the bathtub, right? So the lip of the bathtub, and that was like impossible. So I was lifting my leg sideways over the tub. And so okay, whatever, no big deal. I don't really worry about that motion immediately after injury. But when that was still really challenging 2 to 3 weeks after the initial injury and everything else was improving, and that was still literally the same, it got me curious. So I tested bending my leg in a bunch of different positions, sometimes in bed and sometimes on the floor in various positions while I was doing fascia release. And then one day I tried it standing, just standing at the counter in the kitchen, tried to bend my leg backwards and couldn't do it. Like I literally couldn't even get it more than 2 inches off the ground. I'm doing much better now, but that movement is actually still challenging. So the clip that you're gonna see today of me trying to do it is where I'm at right now. And this is a big improvement upon where I was. So right now, when I do it, I feel like I can get it up, get my leg off the ground a bit, but I can't quite get it to 90 unless I pause and really think about it and really, push it into 90 degrees. And when I do that, I feel a lot of strain in a particular part of my leg. So this is one of the things, though, that I noticed going back weeks. That's interesting. That seems to have nothing to do with the MCL, because that's a completely different movement than would require MCL activation of any kind. So it kind of sent me down a rabbit hole in addition to other things. I was just still feeling inflammation on the back of my knee and none on the front, which again, it's like, why is there inflammation on the back of my knee? And then I also noticed, I just started playing around with a bunch of different movements. I also noticed that I couldn't do heel raises, single leg heel raise on my left leg. So I can do both feet, no problem. So if, again, I was just standing at the counter going like, well, let me see if I have any calf movement. And I can do both feet, no problem. My right, by comparison is springy and bouncy, and I can go up and down real fast. And then when I try to do my left, it is just super slow, really unsteady. I feel like I can't even get all the way up onto my toes. And these two things combined suggest to me, based on doing some research online, that I experienced actually a tear or perhaps a complete rupture of my plantaris and medial gastrocnemius as well. And the supporting data that I have for this is that when I flex my dorsiflex my foot or bring my toes towards my shin, you should, when you do that, you should feel the calf muscle kind of pop out. You can feel the ridge on the inside of your calf. And by comparison, when I do it with my right, yep, there it is. I can feel my medial gastrocnemius and some of the soleus, and there's my calf muscle. And when I do it on the left, it's whoosh. It's just not there. There's nothing there. And I had told Stefan and the chiropractor right after the injury happened, like within a couple weeks, as I was kind of noticing these things, that it felt like I had phantom limb pain. Like I was like, I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like I'm noticing the absence of something. Like something in my leg is missing on the inside in my calf, like just something's not there. And at first it was like, well, it's your MCL. Of course, you're gonna feel that. But it felt like something more. So this is apparently called tennis leg. So it's something you can actually look up if you're curious, because apparently it usually only happens to tennis players when they're stopping and twisting. So it's a sudden twisting injury, and an overstretch, obviously, of that plantaris and then the medial gastroc. So the plantaris is a muscle that assists in knee flexion, and typically it's a really weak knee flexor. So other powerful knee flexors are the hamstrings, and even the sartorius, occasionally, but primarily the hamstrings. And the plantaris, though, I believe, assists in proprioception because it crosses the joint. It actually touches the foot and the ankle, goes through the calf, and then attaches to the femur. So it touches all those things, and it's a huge proprioceptive connector, and I just felt like the communication was missing. So connecting these dots helped me actually tune into my body and send imagination to those muscles that they're repairing, and it gave me, tests to do, right? So I can test bending my leg backwards, I can test single leg heel raises on my left side. And so I'm periodically testing and retesting and seeing where I'm at with that. I've had almost no pain in my MCL, which is really interesting, given, at this point it should be beginning to repair itself. And I've been really diligent about doing a lot of fascia release to get blood flow to all of these areas. So one of the things that has saved me through this time is kinetics. So having all the kinetics knowledge that I have of the body and fascia release techniques, and having Stefan, my man, my partner in life and business, helping me through stepping on me. He's been super insistent that I need it. And even though he's, still learning it, he wants to practice and help me out. And so we've been doing that. We're trying to do it 3 times a week and managing to get at least a couple sessions in per week. And some of the areas that have been absolutely game-changing for me, like I can't stress this enough. The reason I wanted to come on and share this update is because I think I'd be in really, really, really bad shape if I didn't know everything I know. I would have needed to go to a hospital probably, or perhaps even get surgery, or at least get a really good physical therapist to help me through all this. So I'm so grateful that I know what I know, that I trust my body, and that I actually have the knowledge and the science to back up the techniques that I have and the methods that I'm using to give my body what it needs to self-repair. Because I think I'm better off right now than most people would be in my situation. The chiropractor that I'm working with, that I'm going to talk about in a minute, is kind of, he kind of scolds me for doing too much, but then he'll say, you're doing way better than I think most people would. And I think he's just not used to seeing somebody who is able to tune into their body. So I'm so grateful. But the game-changing techniques that we've been doing, I have to mention them here because I hope in watching these videos to always give you some aha or some, pattern recognition for yourself, even if you don't have the exact same injury. I always hope that you learn something that you can use for yourself in listening to these stories. The three primary things that have saved my leg really have been the quad fascia release techniques we do with kinetics, because I have the biggest adhesions in my quads I've ever had, from a protection contraction standpoint, and then also compensation. Because I believe I tore the MCL, ruptured the MCL, potentially ruptured plantaris and medial gastrocnemius. And the chiropractor has told me he thinks my ACL is a little looser than it should be, meaning he can do these tests where he takes my leg into certain ranges of motion and they shouldn't go as far as they're going. So he has actually told me, like, it doesn't seem ruptured, but it's a little bit more flexible than I'd like it. So it's possible I tore a little something in there as well. And then there's something at the back of the knee, but it could just be that plantaris. So those are the things I feel really certain about. But if I didn't have this quad fascia release, that my leg would be so tight and restricted that blood wouldn't be moving to my knee, because there's a lot of blood and lymph that needs to move from the groin area at the hip and that hip flexor region all the way down to the knee. And then the other major one that really changed my gait, changed my ability, and I think allowed me to actually hike those 6 miles and 8 miles, was releasing my IT band. And in particular, two spots that I see in a lot of people that historically haven't been that bad in me. So this was kind of new for Stefan stepping on me, but not surprising. My quad was adhesed to the IT band. And that typically is what I find with IT band fascia, is that it gets stuck to either the quad or the hamstring. The IT band itself rarely has adhesions within it because it's a giant tendon basically that's labeled a muscle. And it's made up mostly of really dense fascia. So it's just like other tendons, it's unlikely to have adhesions inside the actual tendon, but the fascia that wraps that tendon or muscle, right, can get stuck to nearby fascia. So this is also what happened around my knee joint, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But my IT band was also stuck to my hamstring fascia. So it was stuck in both places. And releasing my IT band in both those places, which was really intense, and honestly, my IT band felt like a bone. It felt so dense and so tight. Stefan was like, that's not your femur. That's not a bone. I'm like, nope, that's not a bone. That's at the surface. So you should not be feeling density at the surface of your thigh like that. And if you do, it's fascia that's so tight, it feels like a bone. So releasing that, whoosh, got me like this rush of blood and fluidity and probably water, and flushed out probably a bunch of gunk. And I think that changed how I was walking. And then the other thing was calves. So these three things really, really helped me, and thankfully they are relatively easy for Stefan to do. There are other techniques that are a lot harder. We haven't been able to get into my hamstrings yet, and I need it badly. They're really, really, really tight on my left leg. And I think that would actually help the swelling on the back of my knee go away. So I've been doing fascia release on my hamstring using a lacrosse ball in a chair, which, if you're interested in that technique, we'll link to it below in this video since I'm mentioning it, because I do have that technique here for you on the channel. So that's also been super helpful, because as soon as I could get into my hamstring, I don't know, a week or two after the injury, I was doing it. Major, humongous adhesions in there. And here's the thing, we really need to get into injured tissue and adhesed tissue after an acute injury as soon as humanly possible, because the longer we wait, the harder it gets, the denser it gets, the more adhesed, and then it doesn't really want to let up. So, we want to break up any scar tissue and get in there right away. The sooner we do it, the easier it will be and the faster we can get it gone for good. I think I got those big adhesions in my hamstrings gone within 1 week. And now it's just kind of maintenance for tightness. It doesn't actually feel as adhesed as it was. It just feels really tight, which also makes sense, especially given if my gastrocnemius and plantaris are, torn, my hamstrings are going to have to work overtime for flexion and other things. So yeah, those are kind of the major things. And then as far as what I'm doing for myself, the knee tendon fascia release that I released a video recently for that saved me. Like, saved me. If I didn't have that, I'm not sure I'd be talking to you today like this. I probably would need surgery, or I don't even know. There were just so many adhesions getting stuck under my kneecap, preventing me from straightening, preventing me from bending fully, preventing me from so many things that I'm just not sure if I, didn't know to get in there or didn't think to get in there. I'm not sure how I would have even progressed, to be honest. So what all of this has in common is we want to bring back fluidity and water and blood so that my body, these tendons and ligaments that are torn, have as much blood and nutrients as necessary to repair themselves. Because what I think is interesting is that even modern medicine will admit and say, actually in the case of the MCL, and thankfully the tennis leg rupture of plantaris and gastroc, the medial gastroc, they actually say with both those things that they're superficial enough that you don't need surgery, that they get enough blood supply. But then there are other areas of the body that they believe don't get as good a blood supply and thus require surgery. But it's my belief that if we can open up enough fascia around any joint, any tendon, any ligament, perhaps we don't need surgery for anything, right? Unless it's like a massive, like severing of, I don't know. Obviously there are instances when we need to go to the hospital if we have an amputation or we cut ourselves really deeply to the bone or, whatever. So circling back around to the chiropractor, I decided to sign up for and pay in advance for a whole year of seeing them. I've requested to work with one of the chiropractors that I really like, and he's been awesome for me. He problem solves with me. I can tell him what I'm noticing about my body. He'll dig into the soft tissue and see what he feels. He'll do a bunch of tests. I find this personally really rare. And so when I find it, I feel really grateful. I thank him profusely every time. And yeah, I just feel really lucky to have found him. And so I've been going twice a week. Their protocol for me was twice a week for 2 months, and then once a week for the remainder of 1 year. So we'll see. And the primary reason I was going is the chiropractor that I really like was definitely helping me with my knee. So they kind of have a system where you work with either of them depending on who's available, and I just made the request to work with the one that I really like. And so even though I wasn't signing up for a year specifically for my knee, I want to get as much help for my knee and my leg as I can. So he's been adjusting my tibia and fibula. I've actually asked him to check whether there's a rotation issue, if my tib-fib, as we kind of call it, if you know anatomy, the tib-fib is kind of not sitting below the femur correctly, so there's a slight rotation. So he checked that, and sure enough it was, and so he's been able to do some adjustments that I believe are accelerating what I'm doing at home, and they're working in tandem to help me walk better, far faster than most people would if they're not doing all of these things. But the reason I'm here on YouTube talking to you is that you could do this too. Like, I'm not that special. I just am really committed to listening to my body. And I'm really committed to being with pain until I get the message about what my body is asking of me. And anyone can do this, and it's my passion to teach this. Like, this is what I want to teach people. It's an amazing feeling to trust myself. And I had a moment when in my period of like 2 weeks of doubt, and I was getting a little bit of despair and doubting myself and my ability to listen to my body, and kind of thinking like maybe I should go to a PT, or maybe I should get an MRI. And we even started looking for places to go get an MRI. And something clicked in me that, I don't know, like I literally went from, I don't know if I'll ever hike again. That's kind of where my mind was at. Something to then something clicking in me. No, I've got this. Like, I don't need to go anywhere. I just need to trust my body. And I need to commit to all the things that I know will help it. I was in a little bit of resistance to even doing some fascia release and doing walking every day and doing the things that I knew should help me. And as soon as I made that decision, I hiked 6 miles. Like I was walking normally for the first time since the injury. And Stefan and I have marveled and laughed at that. It's so ironic. Like, sometimes the minute we make a decision, boom, everything changes. It's just weird. Like, a couple days ago, I wondered if I would ever hike, and now I just hiked 6 miles. How did that happen? I didn't really even change anything. And so I just find that super interesting. The mind is so powerful. What we believe about our bodies is so powerful. This is one reason I love working with our bodies as a path of personal development, because we can learn where our trust levels are at for life, in ourselves, in our bodies. We can learn about our fears and what we value and where our resistance is, right? So I just love all that. And I'm going to end here with just mentioning that one of the things that came up for me when I first got injured is a feeling of deep sadness that prior to being injured, I had reminded myself, or not reminded, I had asked myself and made a commitment, a goal, to walk or hike every day, or at least I think it was like 5 days a week that I would go, even if it was a short hike. But every morning I would get out in the sunlight to get sunlight, AM sunlight, which is really good for the circadian rhythm. It's good for so many things. And I love hiking, and it just sets me up for a really good day, and I love it. But before I got injured, I had so much resistance to getting out there and hiking. I don't wanna, like, why? I have to get dressed, I have to get out, Have you ever felt like this? It's so dumb, right? And then like the minute I'm hiking, I'm like, this is awesome. I love being out in the morning. I love getting up early. I love this, right? And so I'm sitting here injured going, God, like, I had all this resistance to doing that. Now I would give anything for the ability. And I noticed as soon as I started hiking again, the thought crept into my mind, oh, hello, you could hike again every morning now. You can do it. You could hike 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, 6 miles, on various days, mix it up a little bit, listen to your body, see where you're at. Hello, resistance, again, right? And so like, I'm bringing this up because I personally believe that this is why pain exists. We would be resistant, arrogant, lazy people if pain didn't exist. Like, we would just not grow. We wouldn't gain wisdom. We wouldn't grow as people if pain didn't, like, we just take things for granted, right? And then we give into resistance, and I don't know. And so we learn so much, I believe, through pain. And yeah, I was just like, whoa, that's so interesting. I can walk now, I can hike, and I'm already taking it for granted. And I'm already resisting doing that every morning, even though 2 months ago I would have given anything to know that I could do that again. So I think it's important to hold ourselves accountable to these things. I think it's important to be the witness and observer of our messiness as humans, because this is normal, in my opinion. This is like normal humanness. But I am making that commitment again to myself, and I've made out a schedule for myself. As of this filming, I plan on hiking tomorrow, and trying to push it a little bit and see if I can go 10 miles, 8 to 10, somewhere in there. And I'm not going to do that every day. I'm not going to overdo it. But yeah, I just think the human mind is so fascinating. What we resist can teach us so much about ourselves. So I hope, if you take nothing else away from this video, that you look within to where you are resisting in your life the things that you know would bring you happiness or more peace or healing or joy or adventure or fulfillment, whatever it is. I actually think we tend to resist what would bring us the pleasant things in life the most, because there's, some struggle involved in actually acquiring those things. So that's where I'm at. I'm so grateful to be hiking again. I'm just so grateful, and grateful to my body, grateful I have these tools. Thank you for following along on this journey. I will keep you updated, but I'm not feeling like I'm severely injured anymore, and so I don't know, I'll probably film an update at some point about my ability to bend my leg backwards and raise myself on my toes. And I did forget to mention, I also can't squat or sit cross-legged yet. So I can't squat, and I get extreme pain on the outside of my knee. So that's something I actually need to investigate, because you can't hike and not pee in the woods. Just keeping it real. Yeah, there are other reasons I would like to be able to squat than that. But yeah, I'm feeling really good. So probably it'll just be another update or two, and then I imagine I might be good. We'll see. So thank you for following along. If you have any questions about anything I've shared in this video, my whole reason for wanting to share this journey with you is that I want you to see that I'm living what I teach. This is how I learn. And then I teach what I learn by really listening to my own body. And so if there's anything I've shared today that has sparked your curiosity or you want to know more about, then please comment below, and maybe we'll film a video for you on one of these topics specifically. But other than that, I'm really grateful for you following along and cheering me on this healing journey. So thank you, and I'll see you soon.